Your relationship with the fans, because I wanted to bring this back around to the fans, 20 years later after SG1 started, this is why we're here, is also unique with your blog and everything else. And I think you have, well, you as well, because you attended conventions as well, getting a lot of this supplementary content. Met you in Chicago for the first time.
Yeah.
Tell us about some of these fan interactions that you've had over the years that really stand out to you over time that make you think, you know what? These people get it. You know, this subtext that we're putting into this. I mean, we maybe have, you know, aliens with two heads, but they're getting that we're talking about apartheid or this or that, you know, or...
Well, I mean, it goes back to what Ivon was saying, the people reaching out and talking about, you know, whether through letters or through postcards or now through the internet, talking about how they used to watch the show with their families and through sometimes very trying times and through sicknesses, and how Stargate became sort of like, you know, an escape for them, or gave them strength or gave them inspiration. In the case of, you know, it's funny, you know, Ivon just mentioned people who say, you know, I became, you know, an archaeologist because of Daniel Jackson, or, you know, or a scientist because of Sam Carter. And, you know, I frequent Reddit a lot, and I mean, just, I want to say like 2 days ago, I got a message from a young lady who basically told me that Carter inspired her to go into the sciences. And it's just amazing that to this day, you know, people are still being influenced and inspired by the show. So, I mean, it's really a testament to how sort of far-reaching and, you know, those characters are and those stories are.
I remember going to Comic-Con, and I hired a buddy of mine to come and to shoot with me, because we went and wanted to shoot some stuff there.
The San Diego one.
The San Diego Comic-Con.
The big one.
Yeah, and he I don't think he'd ever didn't spend a lot of time watching Stargate, and he knew of the show, he knew I worked on it. And when I brought him there to work, and it made me realize, because once you kind of get into it, you realize the fans are amazing, the fans is big. And then when he came, and how shocked he was, and how like realized how big this thing was. And I mean, you remember the rooms in Comic-Con.
Oh yeah, when we were basically with like 4,000 or 5,000 people my first Comic-Con, I couldn't believe it. Yeah.
And
it's nuts.
So seeing it from a different set of eyes made you realize, like, this is...
One that's not sparkling. Yeah, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I mean, and the fact that, you know, generations are being born that are being exposed to this stuff for the first time, and it's still relevant to this day. In some ways, some of it is more relevant than ever before, but it's still, you know, it strikes a chord.
But it's, and again, I go back to this point I made before, it's not trying to be relevant.
Right.
It just is.
It's doing its thing, and because it's so well written and it's so well produced, it feels relevant because you feel attached to these characters and the adventures that they're going on. So I think fans can kind of like extract relevance from.
Yeah.
And people have made them their own, you know, with fan fiction and everything else.
True.
Going on adventures and doing, in some cases, things that are a little out of character.
Yeah,
you know?
I used to get those. We used to get the fan mail, and
That actually been a hoot.
I would open up all Rick's fan mail early on in my early days, and I was like, and I was always like, I always felt guilty because people would be like,
there had to have been a marriage proposal in there
well,
somewhere.
yeah, I mean, there was extremes for sure, and there were a lot of envelopes with money in it, and I'd always be like, oh,
This is to tide you over.
Yeah,
To tide you
so
over.
that I would send them the autograph, you know, and I'd be like, and it was smart because of the guilt of like, well, if they're gonna put $1 in here, they're gonna
Put it at the top of the list.
Well, and just because I wanted to be like, oh God, don't send money, because we always tried to get him to sign as much as we could. So
one of the particular campaigns that was more prominent during the Atlantis period, season 3, one of my favorite episodes, Sunday. Paul, as Carson Beckett, blows to smithereens.
Exploding tumor.
The exploding tumors. Are you kidding me? It's Ronan's line.
Yeah, not trying to be relevant, but still feels relevant.
Yeah.
This isn't your fault. You're just telling me what I want to hear. Well, that's what best friends do sometimes. And in this case, it also happens to be true.
The closing moments of him vanishing on that pier really spawned this huge, fervent campaign among fans to bring that character back. And you listened.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, that was one of those instances where, you know, fans can be very passionate, and like I said, it's a double-edged sword. they can be somewhat nasty at times.
They can be because they care about it.
Yeah, which is I wouldn't say great if you're on the receiving end, but I mean,
Because they care about it. It's like, well, my dad hit me, but he cared about it.
It's okay.
But I have to say, in that case, the campaign was always very, very polite, very professional. They came out. They actually they visited the studio at one point. They campaigned outside the studio and went out and chatted with them. The nice thing about sci-fi is, as we always tell actors that we would kill off. The nice thing about sci-fi is that no one ever really dies in sci-fi. Because there are ways to bring you back, and there was a way to bring him back.
Finally, it's about bloody time. What took you so long?
I remember we were like, okay, we figured out a way to bring him back, and we were going to bring him back in Kindred. I think the end of first part of the Kindred. And the entire episode would build up to that final scene where the door would open up. They think they were like saving, I forget who, and the door would open up, and then it would be Carson, and he would say, "What took you so long?" And it would bump, and then basically Sci-Fi, as they were wont to do, put out a promo that was, it was like, next week, blah 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 blah. You won't believe the last 5 minutes, and then it's Carson Beckett going. What took you so long? Well, of course you're going to believe it. You just saw it.
Well, you can understand what they were doing in terms of the ratings, but then some of those would come out, then someone just, picked a moment in the episode. Joe, the bomb isn't in the building. The bomb is the building.
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah. But Sci-Fi was notorious for doing it. But also, I remember the German title for what was it? The episode where Charest.
Yes, Forever and a Day.
Forever and a Day is
actually Charest's dead.
Yeah, Charest's dead. So,
Thanks very much.
Yeah.
I guess a chocolate and olive oil cake with a chocolate mousse, chocolate tuile, and a chocolate soil. Fresh baked madeleines with a lemon lavender curd.
Can you do me a favor? Yeah. Can you add some more chocolate?
Thank you so
Kind of
much.
balanced with the olive oil cake.
It looks amazing.
Anyone for an Americano, espresso, cappuccino?
We'll have an
Try the
Americano.
Madeleine with the butter.
For yourself?
Americano, please. Thank you.
All right.
I'm good. Thank you.
Madeleines with the butter. That's a butter, like a sweet butter.
Lemon curd.
The food critic Joseph Mallozzi. I'm having dinner with the food guy. This is so extraordinary for me. And he wrote some Stargate episodes.
Kind of story.
We'll talk more about food.
How does this meal stack up in your
Yours are very good.
Yeah?
Yours are very good. I mean,
He's a tough, the thing about it, when never recommend a restaurant to Joseph Mallozzi.
never recommend
Just
a
don't do
book.
it.
Never recommend a book or a restaurant. I couldn't believe. Basically, I have a friend of mine who. I'm a voracious reader. I'm about 168 books on the year so far. It's going to be a record-breaking year for me.
Good for you.
He recommended this.
168.
He recommended this mystery that he said, "Oh, it's great, twists and turns. You won't see them coming." And as a writer,
Of course.
Yeah. You may not see if you see them coming, or if you don't see them coming, it's because they don't make any sense.
Yeah.
And that was the case with this book. And so basically, his recommendation privileges have been revoked.
But that's the thing.
But
is-
Are you willing to share the title?
Um,
Not even give it credit?
I don't even remember. It was about it was about this couple whose baby goes missing when they go out to a party, and it's just so ridiculous. It's implausible.
I know all the certain foods that are like the fair type foods that Joe will like. So like that's the stuff that I can recommend. But if it's like fine dining or anything else, it's like.
But speaking of food and Stargate, for many years I used to have a chocolate party where I would bring in chocolates from all over the world, and when we'd close down a restaurant, we'd have a dinner, and we would just eat chocolate all night. And I had them for like the last 5 years of Stargate. I remember actually when the first years I had it at my place, and Richard Kind, who played the part of Lucius, he was in town, and I was making the he was in the office across the hall from me when I was calling in the chocolate orders. He's like, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm having a chocolate party. Would you like to come?" He's like, "Oh, okay." And he came over. And for years afterwards, he would like email me and say, what a great time we'd had at the chocolate party, and recommend like ice cream places. And
It was a privilege to get invited to that.
Wow.
Like the hottest
Lucius
kid,
Slavin, what an interesting character. Brad described him before we had seen him on film as the hardcore Fenton Mudd of Atlantis. I was like, that's going to be interesting. But what a great guy. His line in Irresistible is still one of my favorite, maybe my favorite line in all of Atlantis.
The sick have been cured. The lame can walk again. Well, some still crawl, but they crawl a lot faster than they used to.
You know, people look at Stargate on the surface and they may think, oh, but it's not whatever, Breaking Bad, or it's not The Sopranos. And it's something that we'd always come up against. You know, when
Never
we
got
were
a lot of
going,
respect.
you know, it didn't, and it was always kind of strangely off the radar. The fans loved it. We always had a huge fan base, but a lot of like the executives or people in LA never knew the show. I remember Rob Cooper, and going in for meetings, he mentioned, you know, I just spent, you know, 17 years on Stargate, and the executive going, oh, was that on American television?
I was with him.
Yeah.
We were pitching a show to an unnamed network, and the president of that network said, "Was that on in the States?" And Rob was like, 17 years.
Oh, man. Please. And Brad, I remember him calling it, you know, referring to it as like a candle that did not have a bright burn, but a steady burn.
Yeah.
It would never blow out.
Yeah.
And that's really, you know, what Stargate was.
Yeah.
Charlie Cohen.
Yeah.
I don't, at the end of the celebration of 10 years book, there is a portrait of Charlie. If you see this man, say thank you to him. Believe us, it won't be thanks enough.
Yeah.
What is the story behind that?
He was, I mean, to be honest with you, it's very rare to have an executive, whether it be in the studio side or the network side, who is genuinely a
huge
fan of the show.
Yeah.
And Charlie was a huge fan of the show. He basically worked at MGM, and then he ended up, I think, taking over as president of television, or I don't know. At one point later on. And he was a guy who would always go to bat for us.
Yeah,
if we needed something, and he genuinely loved the show. He watched the show. He actually had a few cameos on the show. In fact, I think in Vegas,
He's dealing cards with Flanagan.
Yeah,
And the beloved Joel Goldsmith.
Yes,
Yeah,
Joel. He
Joel,
was another
best.
guy who passed too soon. But yeah, I mean, also I think he was in the Arctic. Was he pushing the wheelchair or something?
He's in Continuum.
Oh,
pushing
Continuum.
Daniel Continuum.
Oh, right.
He
Yeah.
lost his foot.
But he came up to, I remember him coming up to
Yeah.
Vancouver a lot, which is not necessarily the norm. So it just shows you kind of how much.
Yeah, and he would just come in and you know,
And I
put
would
on the
imagine-
Atlantis outfit, uniform, and
Yeah.
to walk on a set.
Oh, he
but
did.
but you know what? He's so atypical of many executives in that he was actually soft-spoken, and you know, not an aggressive guy, but just, you know, just a really pleasant guy to talk with, very smart, very respectful.
I met him twice, and he relayed the same story to me both times, probably because he didn't remember me the first time. He's, and this was when I was with Gate World at this point exclusively, and I told him, I introduced myself, and I told him who I was, and he says, "Oh, I know you." I said, "Really?" He says, "Yes, I go to 2 websites in the morning, in order. They are the fantasy baseball site,
Yeah.
and your site."
Yeah.
And I was like, that guy's a fan.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And man, he was cool. I hope to talk to him one of these
Yeah.
days for this project.
Also for Brad to, you know, as a showrunner, to have a guy like that have his back, who was from MGM, was, I mean, you know, just what a nice place to be, because often there can be that back and forth that can really sort of impede, you know,
He was an
producing the
ally.
show.
Yeah.
So he was an ally, yeah.
And the reason that we're doing this now is because of fandom. I mean, to close this out, the fact is that we wouldn't be doing this if there wasn't, like Ivon and I were talking about, the dragon wants to be fed.
Yeah.
You know, so we're producing this content. So anything you care to say, you know, to the people who have sat down and watched us for the past 2 hours.
Thanks for watching, and
Watching us eat.
Yeah, thanks for watching, and hopefully we'll keep watching, and we'll MGM and others
Yeah.
will give you some more Stargate in the not too distant future.
Yeah, I'm in awe of the passion, I think, that the fans have, and I think that the more that they're always going to be there. They're not going away, and so I think hopefully that this new incarnation, they get something out of it, and hopefully there's many more incarnations of it, because I think they're there and they want to be fed, and I think technology and writing and everything else is only going to make the next, whatever the next one is, even more exciting. So.
Some closing thoughts for you?
Yeah.
We're continuing to helm that. So
Yeah.
that beast.
Thank you for giving me something to helm. I think that it's just, I mean, especially getting to meet the fans at New York Comic Con and also at San Diego Comic Con as well. And like hearing that kind of scream in the room when they found out there was more Stargate coming. And also just the fact that there aren't many shows that you feel like you can go back and re-engage with time after time after time. And I think some of the work that you guys did, that's a testament to the quality of the franchise and the stories you guys created. Because you can go back and find something completely different the next time you watch it.
And the fact of the matter is, you're sitting with kids who first saw this in their bedrooms the first time.
Yeah, that's three.
Yeah.
All of us three, right here.
All of us three. I don't know about you, but maybe
we were inspired by what you did, and you made us think about our worlds a little bit differently, maybe a little bit for the better. So thank you, and thank you for watching. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yep.
It was a good day.
Yeah, it was a good day.